Million Cups is a national program created by the Kauffman Foundation, designed to educate, engage, and connect entrepreneurs over 1 million cups of coffee. Started in Kansas City over 5 years ago now, because the Kauffman Foundation basically wanted to meet all of the entrepreneurs in their city. They put this event together, and it's kind of grown by word of mouth in 5 years to over 120 communities. It's pretty cool. So let's see. Ooh, check-in. Be sure and check in. So our 1 Million Cups app is really cool. It is a tool to check in, right? Which is what we ask you to do every week with it. But you can also connect to other community members in Dallas, and you can also connect to other 1 Million Cup community members across the U.S. So if you wanted to take advantage of our amazing network through the 1 Million Cups app, you can do that. You can also, if you're wondering the night before you come, I wonder who's going to be presenting tomorrow, you can open the app, and both presenters are listed. The app connects you to their website, connects you to their social media, so you can find out everything about our presenters before you get here. You can also, while the presenters up here, leave feedback for them through the app, which is pretty cool. So, everybody check in. All right, please raise your hand if this is your very first time at 1 Million Cups. Hey, wow, welcome to 1 Million Cups. Let me tell you the format. We meet here at 9 a.m. at the deck every Wednesday morning, and we see 2 to 3 presenters every week. They have 6 minutes to present their idea, their company, their product, and then after 6 minutes, we all clap. Sometimes we cut them off, we hate doing that, but sometimes it's necessary. And then we turn it over to you guys. So we will give you guys 10 to 15 minutes to ask questions of the presenter, to give your feedback to the presenter, help them become better for the next time that they have to present, right? So while they're up here presenting, be sure and think of the questions that you want to ask, so we can give them some really great feedback. All right, I think with that, we're about to get started. If everybody can please stand up and welcome Greenhorn to the stage.
Good morning, how's everybody doing? Great. Awesome. I'm the one controlling. While we're waiting, it's always weird. I've been to a few of these, more than a few, and it's always weird. Now it's weird to be on the other side. Good morning. As I said, my name is Bill McNeely. I'm the co-founder of Greenhorn, and at Greenhorn, we match skill-ready veterans with tech companies through apprenticeships. A little bit of background on the team. I'm a former Army logistics officer. I did 9 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. My specialty is in logistics and project management. And yes, I really did co-found this with my new wife. So that could always be an adventure. So we'll find out. We'll find out if it's gonna hold up to the stress. But her background is project management and IT. So the problem we're addressing from the tech companies' standpoint is that there's 7.5 million tech jobs that need to be filled every year, and every year about 627,000 go unfilled. And so the problem is you have all these companies competing for the same talent, and people think that they can compete with Facebook and Google and the like, but they really can't. So they really need to go out and develop their own talent. I really like this is the This Week in Startups. Ryan Carson from Treehouse talks about apprenticeship for about 6 minutes. So if you go on YouTube and look for this, it's a really good video. And from the veterans problem is we all want to get, we always hear these great things about tech, but the problem is we're not always good about translating the skills that we had in the military to how they can help a civilian corporation. Also, it's hard to talk to companies about our leadership capabilities when maybe they're looking for management. And then also, things are, especially with junior enlisted guys after their first 4 years in the military, is a lot of times they don't have degrees or certificates that people are looking for. So what happens is instead of just being unemployed, they're underemployed and they're having to work 2 jobs and they're also not able to make their rent. So how do we solve this? So the solution is this. We're going to do 5 things. It sounds like a lot, but basically we're going to educate. We're going to educate through videos, through blog posts, whether it's our own content or someone else's content. We're going to help the apprentices with skills translation. So a guy that's did 4 years in the Marine Corps, he's been to a leadership school, he understands how to use the Microsoft suites, so he can easily transfer that to Google Documents. If he's been in recruiting, he understands how to go out and do sales. The other thing too is just opportunity awareness. Just let people know that tech's available. You don't have to be the coder. There's other opportunities, whether it's sales, marketing, project management, product management. And then just letting the candidates get exposed to the companies. A lot of people think veterans are very rigid and uptight, and that's not really the case. Over the last few years in the wars, you've always had to adapt your tactics every year because they completely change. So the market, as I said, is about 7.2 million tech positions as of 2017. 627,000 go unfilled, and it's just going to get worse because they're projected to increase by 144,000 next year. And that's according to the USA Today, April 23rd, 2017. So yes, there are competitors. There's recruiting firms, headhunter firms, Orion, Bradley, all these guys are the big guys that go out, and they usually only focus on the junior military officers, so the junior enlisted are always left out, even though we spent all this money. It costs about $72,000 to train every veteran. So they're losing out on a bunch of people that can help them out. Job boards, we all know job boards. It was great in 1999, but in today's day and age, it doesn't always work out. It's about a 1 in 500 chance of you picking up a job that way. And then last is the newer companies like Greenhorn. There's a company out there called Shift, and so they use your LinkedIn profile to match you up with skills based on the job description. So how do we make money? We make money from the tech companies. I call it apprentice as a service. So basically they, on a subscription basis, they pay us either $150 per position, or it's $1,500 a year. Online courses, in the future we're going to have, I could foresee us having online courses where veterans pay us $25 a month to have access to these videos so they can get themselves prepped for the transition. And lastly, branding services, so if they need help with resumes and that sort of thing, we can help them with that. Progress, we launched our site July 14th. We have over 1,700 veterans subscribed, and we just launched a Kickstarter campaign. The Kickstarter campaign's been up for a day. We've already raised 10%. We're trying to raise $12,000 to work on our platform. What we're looking for today out of this is to get exposure and to let you know that we're looking to work with about 50 tech companies. So if you know someone that would like some veterans, come and talk to me. We're looking to veterans that would need help getting into tech, let them know about us, because our goal is about 5,000. And lastly, on our crowdfunding, we're trying to raise 12,000. It would be nice if you could raise 30,000. Any questions?
We're going to bring everybody the microphone since we're recording. So,
hey, this is a great idea, and congratulations to you getting it started. Have you guys reached out to the guys at Rally Point to do any type of networking with them, or are they a competitor for what you're doing?
No, I'm really glad you brought that up. Because again, I met those guys back in the day when there was just 2 guys in DC in 2013, and so I'm glad you brought that up because it just reminded me to go work through my network because there may be some synergies that could be leveraged.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they ran some banner ads throughout their content to drive folks over to you. So, yeah, awesome.
Awesome. I'm glad you told me about that.
all right, next question.
Good morning. I thought I heard you say 1,700 people already acquired onto the site.
Correct.
In the last month or so. Can you kind of share kind of your strategy, how you acquired that, and where you think that growth is going?
So our strategy was simply to use my network, and I reached out to literally thousands. I mean, I went to I used Context.io, basically scraped my Gmail account, and then I also scraped my LinkedIn account, and then I used Kickbox.io, which scrubbed my list to make sure it was clean, all the emails were good, weren't any bounce backs, and then that's how many people actually signed up when we sent out an email using MailChimp to do that. So we got about 25% open rate, so it's not too bad.
Great. Awesome, thanks.
Great job, exciting stuff. Are you working with the Department of Labor or the VA? Because there's all kinds of programs associated with enabling these vets and enticing the corporations to bring them on, especially apprenticeship programs.
I haven't been, but I've been made aware in the last 24 hours that I should be. Amazon, there's bigger companies doing this, like Amazon and IBM, and that's what they did. They went directly to the Department of Labor and said, hey, can we do this? But it's really, with them, it's really small. Like, Amazon is doing it here in Dallas, and there's 15 people in the program. I mean, come on. I mean, when there's 56,000 people that are underemployed, I mean, that's just a drop in the bucket, right? So that's the thing we're going to be working toward. Partnering with community colleges to maybe come up with a 10-week, so maybe a 10-week management certification through community college. Other ones could be getting them through their P&P certification. And then obviously if they're coders, if they've been through a coding school, there's 6 or 7 coding schools now. They accept the GI Bill. So you're like, you graduate there, and then we can place you with the company. So the companies are important. So that's really what I'm looking for. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, I'll throw in related to that. I come from the HR world in my previous life, and if you go to any HR conferences, there are several, in the vendor area, there's several vendors that are specialized in veteran recruiting, and so they may be great partners or the things that, other types of groups that you can work with, whether it's just, getting connections within the industry or maybe even partners that can help you get more
Right.
multiple people. All right, next question, sorry. Comment here.
Hey, excuse me, sorry. I like the idea. Regarding the tech stats you mentioned about the empty jobs or the jobs that go unfilled, I'm curious, how technical are those? And then, initially in the earliest phases, I'm assuming I don't know if those include product owners, more the logistical, the sales, etc. I guess there's 2 questions. One, how much of those are developer jobs with the high skill set? And then I guess with the initial apprenticeships, are you going after more of the project management or the tech positions? Or what's kind of that training gap that you need to hurdle over to get these apprenticeships or whatnot to help me think of ways to, or like companies that might have good opportunities? Does that make sense? Or
No, if you could rephrase that would be
yeah,
great.
sorry, I had a couple questions. So basically, it's like you mentioned tech jobs, right?
Correct.
So a lot of them might be developers. So I'm assuming that needs training to go from point A to point B. So they've done the military. A lot of them, you mentioned training yourself. So what types of jobs or apprenticeships they could go straight into without having really much training at all to go ahead and get the ball rolling? Is it more on the project management side, or like what type, or do you know yet? I'm just trying to get a sense of, take away the training piece, what's available now that would be a good fit for your types of.
So when I originally came up with the concept, my original thought was, hey, you came out of a coding school, that means you know how to code. I mean, you may not be like Mark Zuckerberg quality, but you know how to code, you can do the basic blocking and tackling. So the idea was you just be like an entry level. This is a great entry level job where you don't need that person that's got a computer science degree from Stanford. You just have some basic blocking and tackling. I've been approached by the Department of Energy talking about their cybersecurity. So what they're looking to do is, what they wanted from me was an apprenticeship program that was both training and on the job. So they, they have some aging technology, and the baby boomers are aging out of the job pool, and so they need to backfill that talent. What was the other part of the question? And did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think that was it. Just to try to narrow it down, just the sense of that initial, your initial phase of just go ahead and getting these people into apprenticeships.
Right, so
like what you kind of described just now.
Yeah, so the first 5 jobs I thought were pretty easy based on my background was operations, software, engineer, and design, and then sales and marketing. Kind of in that order.
I don't know if you mentioned it already, but what's your job placement rate right now, like your success rate, like where you expect it to be, like how do you plan on like increasing that?
So yes, I've been asked this question. As I said, I haven't placed anybody yet. I'm just gaining interest. I've got more supply than I do actual jobs lined up, and so I'm trying to work through that. I've only been around for 30 days, but yes, I've been asked that question by New Horizons, like, hey, we have all these veterans that we take a GI Bill for, but we can't find them places to work, so we want to work with somebody like you.
Got it.
So we're going to work together on what those metrics are.
My brother, he flies Blackhawks in the Army,
Right.
and he's got like a huge, he's the company commander on his base, so like everybody's kind of like an influencer on the base.
Right.
And like a lot of the guys, he sees them as they transfer out, and like the transitions that they go into from like Army life to just like regular civilian life. I don't know if you might find like some type of connection there, some type of fit in there.
Right.
To be useful.
So going back to Rally Point, you know, we need to network with folks like Rally Point, and we need to get accesses to the bases. But I need to make sure I got a product market fit, which I don't think I've got yet. So we're getting there. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, yeah. Good morning. So I was just curious, like, are you offering anything to people who donate or contribute on Kickstarter? And, you know, related to that, kind of like, how are you structuring this entity? Is it for profit, not for profit? What's your revenue model going forward?
So going forward, I'm a for-profit company. It's more social. I want to do well by doing good. And I don't have a problem as long as I provide a service or a product that will help people. Having said that, I've been in the shoes that I'm talking about. I've been the guy that went from running $1 billion for the Iraq government for all the logistics to being the guy that lived out of my car. So it's not fun. For me, this is like real. This isn't like a game. So yeah. So I want to help other people so they're not in the same position. What was the other part of your question?
Just the revenue model for your business.
Okay. You also talked about Kickstarter too. So the Kickstarter. So we have a variety. As I said, we got off to a great start. Fred Wilson picked us up. He backed us for $100 and then put us on his blog yesterday. And so that drove. I got about 10% of the funds right now, thanks to his help. So they go from anywhere from a thank you note to a postcard to some pretty cool T-shirts to the higher end. You can buy somebody a resume review. You can buy someone a LinkedIn review, and then do some other sponsorships. So they range anywhere from you can get in for $5 all the way up to $5,000. So there's some other ones out there for companies that maybe want to hire veterans that need to fill positions right now. So.
Are you creating original content for this, or for the apprenticeship part of it?
So for the apprenticeship, like I said, initially it was just like, hey, we're just going to get this really great guy or gal, and we're going to show them into this company for 90 days at making $15 an hour, and then on the 91st day they get bumped up to $25 because you already had the skills. They just need the opportunity. What I'm seeing is, we're probably going to continue with that, but I'm seeing is I'm getting approached by these people like, hey, we need to build out an actual apprenticeship program. So what I'm seeing there, I'm either going to have to design my own apprenticeship program, or in the case of like cybersecurity, there's already experts out there, so we're going to go out and find experts to do that. My boss in Saudi Arabia, I worked with I did critical infrastructure protection with the Saudis. And so my boss was the guy that was on Bill Clinton's Blue Ribbon board, so he knows everything about cybersecurity. All the stuff you see in the news today, I just kind of laugh because he told me about this 10 years ago. So yes, we have some connections. And sometimes it'll make more sense to do partnerships as original content, but I blog a lot, I write a lot, I've done a lot of training. So I'm familiar with training, what I can and can't do.
Is there some type of overview of that? I mean, in terms of if you do an apprenticeship program, I know some organizations oversee that and have to credential it, I guess.
Correct. So that's why we need to partner with somebody like the Department of Labor, because that certificate needs to be something that means something outside the four walls of like IBM or something like that. So that's that's definitely an area I need to work on. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
All right, and we are actually out of time. So sorry, we're trying to cram everything in today. So everybody, give him a hand.
Thank you very much to Dev Mountain Dallas for providing the coffee this morning. They actually have an info session coming up August 23rd, so if you've always wondered what a coding boot camp does or maybe what makes Dev Mountain different, you can stop by that on August 23rd. Thank you so much to Perttu for bringing our favorite treats every single week. Yes. And a huge thank you to the deck for inviting us into their space every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. They also have free co-working every Wednesday after 1 million cups. So if you need a place to work, you can stick around today. And Emmanuel actually will be available for tours afterwards. So if you don't know what the Dallas Entrepreneur Center does, if you've never taken a look around, he can show you around today. All right, and I think with that, we're about ready for our second presenter today. Everybody can please stand up and welcome First 3 years to the stage.
Great, thank you. My name is Sadie Kunk, and I am the CEO of First 3 Years. We're a statewide nonprofit committed to advancing the healthy development of infants and toddlers. Today I'm here to talk to you about an initiative of ours called Safe Babies. At the heart, Safe Babies is really about transforming the experience of children who've been abused and placed in foster care from one that continues to be traumatic to one that becomes healing. It's also about, during that same time, providing the opportunity for birth parents to learn new parenting skills during visitation that allows them to more appropriately and effectively parent upon reunification and make recidivism less likely. So to begin, just a couple things. Why babies, right? We know that 85% of core brain development happens by the time a child turns the age of 3. We know that healthy brain development is dependent upon everyday interactions with caregivers. Things like peekaboo, things like your cry being met, things like being held, picked up, and loved. We also know that the absence of consistent, healthy relationships later leads to deficits in cognitive development and learning. Things that impede their ability to do well in school, make healthy social relationships, do well as an adult in a job, as well as make peers. So, in Dallas County, we have about 4,600 children last year alone who were removed from their homes due to abuse. And that includes 1,370 babies. And I'm going to repeat that line because I think it's important. Last year, more than 1,300 babies were removed from their homes due to abuse. Even worse, once removed, they entered a system in which they continued to struggle and ultimately fail. And that failure cost Dallas County more than $1 billion annually. So in response to this re-traumatization of an already traumatized population, First 3 Years developed Safe Babies. And Safe Babies demands that science and best practice become common practice in working with children who've already suffered the worst. Safe Babies leverages our more than 30 years of working with community partners to increase the outcomes and help the advancement of healthy development among infants and toddlers. Doing it this way helps to create a system that transforms the experience from traumatic to healing as well as an opportunity to learn new parenting skills. And what we're doing is not about building a program. What we're doing is building the capacity of existing partners already in this space. And we're leveraging their current experiences so that they can not only become more efficient, but grounded in science. Because let's face it, how many lawyers do you know, or judges do you know, that study child development or the impact of trauma in law school? Yet every day, they're required to make life-changing decisions for families in Dallas County based on child development and trauma. We fill that void by training more than 300 professionals, including Child Protective Services, annually, who work with more than 12,000 children. Additionally, currently we've supported the training of more than 50 birth or foster parents to come alongside birth parents in giving them new parenting skills. Doing it this way actually works us out of a job, because we're not looking to do this forever. We're looking to build the capacity within our community so that people are able to continue better supporting the needs of young children. Additionally, even better, our model, once successful, is scalable to all 254 counties in Texas. So how can you support us? I'm going to give you a couple ways. One, start talking about abuse. And don't just talk about abuse. Talk about the children who've been abused in our community and continue to struggle. Two, once you've done that, tell people there's a better way. Tell people that there are judges, the DA's office, CPS, and us, Safe First 3 Years, working with Safe Babies in Dallas County to do better, and that they can support that. Two tangible ways to support it is next month, the ground floor program at United Way is hosting something called One Up the Vote. That is an easy way. Get online, vote for us every day. It's free, but it allows us to get money, right? Because if we win, we get a check, and you supported are getting that check without ever writing money. But if you do have some funds to spare, we ask that you support our upcoming golf tournament, which is a great time at Timurin on October 2nd. And if you don't golf, ask people who do golf to support us at the golf tournament. And with that, I'm open for questions. Thank you.
All right, if you've already answered our first question, it's usually what can you as a community do to help. So next question, or next and first.
Hi, you gave a great presentation. I'm not sure if I missed it, but is there a story that actually led to this business? And for you specifically, we didn't really hear anything about your background, and perhaps that might help us connect, have a stronger connection to the big picture.
Sure, absolutely. So my story is that I've been working with very young children and their families for about 10 years here in Dallas County. And when I learned at how disproportionately babies represent all children who've been abused and neglected, I was pretty surprised. So you're looking at about 30%. That's true both locally and nationally. But what I was more surprised was to learn that children who enter the system continue to struggle and are often returned to families who aren't appropriately ready to handle them. In which case we're setting families up for disaster, and we're creating a system that continues to be traumatic when really it can just be stressful. And so we're never gonna take a situation of moving children from one home to the next and call it not stressful, but we can ensure it's not traumatic. And there are people all over the country doing this, and they're taking advantage of the wonderful benefits that foster cares or foster placements, foster parents are already providing to families during this time, and giving them the power and the skills to come alongside birth parents and really equip them with new skills. Additionally, it's about creating better efficiencies within CPS and the courts who really want to do better, but really don't have access to the skills and research necessary to do so.
So with CPS, do you guys actually partner with the social workers, like the contract social workers that are going into the field? Like how do you deliver the content to the, like the folks on the street that are actually working hand in hand with those parents?
Yeah, great. So there's a couple different ways. So first of all, we have regional leadership on board. So we have the regional director here in Dallas County as well as the assistant regional director. And with their leadership, they help map out the steps of what it means to implement this in Dallas County. Additionally, back to the training, so we provide free training to community stakeholders working in this space we call the child welfare space. So a lot of people think of child welfare, they jump to poor children. Child welfare is actually the system for children who've been abused. So we work with those stakeholders to bring national experts who are really able to provide the knowledge around child development, which is also our expertise as well. And then lastly, we work with CPS and foster placement agencies to better equip them to think through the case. So we're actually holding case meetings throughout that brings together the stakeholders and says, at this very moment, what's the best thing we can do for baby? At this very moment, that's gonna have the best impact. And our system has become very adult-centric, and so part of this is really about making that shift back to child-centric. So yeah, you're welcome. Yep.
I missed this as well, but are you a nonprofit? Are you a for-profit?
We're a nonprofit. Yep.
Nonprofit.
And so our model with this is a little different, and I kind of alluded to it in that our goal is actually to go out of business with this. We have other things we do, but the model of this is to go in and work with these stakeholders for about 5 to 10 years, building the capacity and helping everyone to slightly shift what they're doing so that it does work more efficiently, it's more streamlined, but more importantly informed by science and best practice. And then once that happens, we can actually step out. There may be still the need for something like a coordinator role. We are doing, alongside this, an evaluation. And part of that evaluation is not only to look at things like recidivism rates and rates of reunification and things like that, but also to look at cost savings. And if we're able to make the case for cost savings, which is pretty likely, then we can make the case to hire a court coordinator. And actually, our goal would be to put that coordinator within about 5 to 10 years back into the community. So initially, they'll start with us as our employee as we are implementing this, but over time, that'll go back to the community. We step out, and it's not a $1.5, $2 million project that continues to be funded. We may move on and do it in other counties, and that's kind of our business model as well. Is that at some point I quit asking for money, and counties start getting us to do it. But yeah.
And then plus also, so I guess you're part of a larger organization and not a startup per se.
Sure. So first 3 years, we have a 35-year history in really focusing on infants and toddlers. And so this portion, Safe Babies, is more of a startup.
Could you give me an example, like if you have a baby that's being abused and it's taken out of the home, kind of the process, the story of like...
I'm glad you asked. Yes. So, and just so everyone here knows, about 80% of all cases are actually neglect. So those are families that maybe never learned from their parents how to appropriately parent, maybe don't have access to all the resources. But right now you have a child, let's say they're 18 months old, and they're removed from their home by a stranger, right? And they're put in a strange car, and they're driven, if they're lucky, for a half hour, maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour and a half, to a strange home with new smells that are strange people, strange environment. And then over the course of about 2 to 3 days, they start to slowly warm up to this strange home, which is actually the foster parents, right? And they develop an attachment bond, which is that close emotional bond that actually calms the central nervous system and is really supportive of healthy development. And then right about that time, here comes a stranger and they take the baby and they put it back in their strange car, and then they take them to a room, 45 minutes, and then they go to a room that's, in all honesty, pretty empty and somewhat dirty. And then in this room, all of a sudden walks a new stranger, my birth parent, but my memory doesn't work that way, so I may not remember them. And this stranger is so excited to see me that they aggressively approach me like, oh my gosh, right? And I fall apart because all of this was too much. and then I'm put back in a car with a stranger, and then go back to my comfort figure, which is that foster parent. And that's, I mean, I think we can all agree that's bad for baby, but it's also really bad for birth and foster parent. It's bad for birth parent because they were so excited to see their child, they feel rejected by their child, they're gonna relapse. They're gonna go back to drugs, they're gonna get off their mental health meds, whatever it was that caused them to get this child removed in the first place. So that's not good. The other thing is now a foster parent is receiving this child who's a nervous wreck, very stressed out, and they're saying, what the heck did that birth parent do? But it had nothing to do with the birth parent. It had to do with the experience and the logistics of what we did. So in contrast, what Safe Babies is about is, let's have foster parent drive the baby to the visit, and then be present inside the visit. That allows baby to relax and take in their environment. But we also give the foster parents a framework in how to support the birth parent in developing new parenting skills. And it's all based on something called following the child's lead. So they see a child play with blocks, the birth parent plays with blocks, and they say, wow, look at that. You play with blocks, they play with blocks, that's great. So they're encouraging healthy behaviors from the parent. They're also able to ask questions like, hey, I gave little Susie a cup of milk last night and noticed a rash. Have you ever seen that before? So they'll ask questions about allergies that are often left out of case files upon delivery of this child. They're not allowed to say anything negative. So that's one piece. The other piece is that right before that very first visit, we pull the birth parent aside and say, hey, we just want to let you know there's something called child wariness. That means your child's not going to remember you. It's nothing personal. It's just biology. This is how it goes. So if you run in and really aggressively approach them, it's going to go bad. They're going to break down. But if you go in and you slowly approach them and you kind of play alongside them and are very gentle, that's going to make the visit go better. And then we show them a video of a parent going in and being rejected, a parent slowly approaching and being accepted. And what that does is even if they run in, well, one, it prepares the parent for the visit, right? Which is a new idea. But it also gives the parent that even if they do go in later, if they're rejected, they know it's not personal, right? They were told it was going to happen that way. They saw it happen to another parent that way. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It just means that, okay, maybe it wasn't just me. Maybe there's something else there. It also breaks down assumptions that birth parents and foster parents have about the other that can get in the way of really coming together around that child. Because the truth is, nobody wants what's best for that child more than the birth and foster parent. So if you can get them together, you can really get a great start for that case. Thank you.
Time for a couple more questions.
Hi, great presentation.
Thank you.
I have two questions. So the first one is, do you guys have, I don't know if you mentioned this, but do you guys have data on the effectiveness of your program? And the second one is, are you guys planning on working on more partnerships? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, so we do have, I'll start with the second one and go back to the first one. We have several partnerships. So here locally in Dallas, we're working with the Family Court District Judges, we're working with CPS, CASA, Reese Jones Center for Foster Care Excellence, Buckner, Covenant Kids, I don't know if I said the DA's office, Early Childhood Intervention, the Warren Center, and MetroCare, their departments. I'm probably going to leave someone off. We still really need to get the public defenders on board, so if anyone here has an in with the public defenders, I'd love to talk to you afterwards. And then the effectiveness, so I can talk to the effectiveness in a couple ways. So right now, we're just in launching phase in Dallas County. We started this pilot about a year ago in Tarrant County and have about 8 cases. Those cases are still open cases because on average a case takes about a year. However, anecdotally, we can speak pretty highly as to how those cases are going, how it's changed for birth and foster parents together. Children being more supported. So there was one example where a foster parent had a 2-year-old, and she said, you know, the 2-year-old would never talk about their parent. And they had then after they had their first co-parenting visit, where they got to meet, and the 2-year-old saw that they were getting along. The 2-year-old started, imagine playing like, hey, when they were playing, like, let's call mommy. Or this foster parent was religious, and so when they would pray at night, It used to be the foster parents were only praying for the birth parent. Once they started having the co-parenting visits together, then the birth and foster parent, the foster parent and the child were both praying for their parent. Other things like sensitivity to what you might call a foster parent. So it was a very easy change for the child to change from saying mommy to mommy D. But then nationally, so the model of co-parenting that we're using is based on something, it's an evidence-based model called ABC out of the University of Delaware that has been used in many places, one of which is Reno, which is using it countywide to great success. The education core component, why we implemented that, is we've been able to see in Arizona, they're doing this at a statewide level, and we're able to see better outcomes just through educating the stakeholders alone. And then they saw additional gains when focusing in on some of the more wraparound pieces that we've included as well. And we're working with UT Child and Family Research Partnership for that evaluation.
All right, we're about out of time, and I may have missed this. Did you mention your connection with United Way Ground Floor?
Yes, so we are, United Way has an incubation ground floor program, and so we're one of their mentees this year. And so that's allowed us to get some pretty significant seed funding so that we can launch this program here in Dallas.
All right, if you have any other questions, we'll be available after the event. Everybody, please give Sadie a round of applause. Thank you. Alrighty, it's about 10 o'clock, so if you need to leave, you can. But really quickly, I mentioned at the beginning of this event that this event is run by volunteer coordinators. And a lot of people always come up and ask us about that after the event. And so Devin, one of our coordinators, actually put together a really quick pitch, and he wanted to share that with you. So everybody please stand up and welcome Devin to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Thank you. I do see a lot of familiar faces here. That's always good. And y'all really help the community as well. I kind of consider our regulars to be volunteer coordinators themselves, and that they tend to add a lot of value to the conversations that we're having. So as Lindsay has told you, I guess also before I get into the presentation, I know a lot of you are also first-timers. I would like for you to keep in mind that if you're looking for volunteer opportunities or if you want to get more engaged in the Dallas community, feel free to listen in, and we are also accepting newcomers as coordinators. We have no problem with that whatsoever. So 1 Million Cups, as Lindsay said, is a national organization. It was started by a nonprofit called the Kauffman Foundation 5 years ago. Excuse me. And since then has grown to about 120 cities. Dallas is one of the top 10 chapters, which means that we just have a lot of awesome people coming out every day. And I think a large part of that is just being in the deck and being an essential part of Dallas. So why would anyone want to be a volunteer coordinator? There's a few reasons. One of them, the largest ones that I think, is being able to give back to the community. I know myself personally, I started a business late last year, and being able to leverage the community, being able to find groups of people that I relate with helped me in not only starting a business, finding clients, but also building a support network of people that you can lean on whenever you're having trouble with your business. And I think that 1 Million Cups helps support that, and that's definitely something to get out of it. Another thing that people get out of being a coordinator is just an opportunity to practice skills that you don't normally use on a daily basis. If you're a finance manager and you want to work on networking or marketing, then 1 Million Cups is a great opportunity to learn that. We're very lax as a volunteer coordinator group, and if someone's wanting to do something, even if it's not in our normal bracket of stuff that we do as volunteers, we're very open about that. Like Mark, for example, has recently started a coaching program for presenters that want to get better at what they do. And then getting to connect with even more startups. So coming out regularly, yeah, you definitely connect with a lot of startups. I think as a coordinator, you even have to manage people before they come in, before they even get into the space. So you do get a lot more visibility into that space as well. Plus, you have a lot of other community members that reach out to us that we may not necessarily have a right fit for 1 Million Cups at the events every Wednesday, but then we're still in touch with them. So that's one of the big benefits for me. Just some metrics on our social media. We currently have about 2,000 Twitter followers, 1,000 Facebook likes and follows. Interesting fact, for some reason we're rated like a 4.9 on Facebook as a community organization. I guess they rate those now. And then our mailing list is about 400 people, and that's been growing recently. And then our Instagram is about, let's switched up. Our Instagram is 250 and our mailing list is 400. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, it's a really good opportunity to get involved with a large group of people and just learn what it's like to deal with managing social networks on a larger scale. And then in person, we usually have about 30 to 60 people, which when we have 30 people is really interesting because the space is so large, it actually looks like there's only a few people in the room, but really even on a bad day, there's a great turnout. And then the most that I think I've seen as a coordinator here has been about 75, 80 at a time. I believe we had an event recently where some college kids came in as a part of their program, and we had to pull out just like a bunch of chairs and add columns to the audience, and that was really fun. And so that's basically all of our metrics and stuff. And so what we do on Wednesday morning as coordinators, we make sure coffee's ready, whether that's making sure that our sponsor has brought it, or setting it up ourselves, making it ourselves. I think that 1 million cups in its namesake is all about drinking coffee and also connecting with people. So that's #1 priority for us. And then second priority, setting up presentations, of course. And then one of our coordinators will be the MC. We'll have another one run the mics. And then we have someone around just in case there's a fire or anything like that. So back-end duties, things that you don't see us doing, there's a few of them. They're pretty broadly defined, but for the most part, we are scheduling presenters, we're planning special events, and we are also growing our member outreach and finding sponsors. The special events are something that we started a couple of months ago. Basically, at the end of every month, we were running some kind of special event. The first one we did was a marketing panel, and we did another one after that, which escapes me. Oh yeah, we had community pitches. We actually had a couple of people in this crowd that came out and did it, and it was a lot of fun. And we're wanting to do more stuff like that moving forward. But being the third quarter, for some reason, a lot of people are trying to get presentations in, so we have a lot more applications coming in. But we're definitely trying to find space for special events. And sponsorship. The main thing that we have sponsorship for is coffee. We don't actually manage any finances ourselves as coordinators. All of our sponsorship is in kind, which means that the sponsoring company will bring whatever they need and take whatever they need with them, so we don't manage any funds or anything to that extent. We do currently have a video sponsor, and they're going to be one of our new coordinators, so that'll be fun. And then coffee sponsorship has been something that we'll swap out every month or so. Yeah, over the next 12 months, we plan on basically improving our process. We want to improve the volunteer process so that it makes it easier for us to bring in volunteers and for us to flex the number of volunteers that we have as needed. And then streamlining our special event process so that we can do more of them or do more fun stuff in the Dallas community. And finding other new and exciting ways to help the community. For example, with Mark running a coaching program and us just trying to find new ways that we can help out. And then, as far as commitment goes, we're looking for people who are willing to spend like 6 months at least working with us. And then we say 5 hours a week, but really it's like 1 million cups usually goes about 1 to 2 hours as a volunteer, and then a meeting on Friday where we just like catch up, schedule, sync, and stuff like that, and then actually coming to 1 million cups. So that's really all there is to it. These are the current coordinators. So we have Lindsay, who's the student success manager at Dev Mountain. Mark, on the far right, is the owner at Big Frog Custom T-shirts in town. And then Andrew, who's not here today, is the founder of a company called Notary Force, and they're a national company that has been running for about 8 years now. And myself, who is the founder of a company that started less than a year ago. So it's definitely for me been interesting being able to ask all these people who have owned and founded and or managed their own companies, just being able to ask them questions all the time. And that's all of us. as far as what we're looking for the community, I'll wait to answer the question for that one. And then if we could just have Lindsay and Mark stand towards the front for the Q&A.
Any questions? Start with what we do, what we're looking for, who we've met.
Anybody have feedback for Devin and how you can make this presentation better next time? No? Okay. Well, we will be around after the show if anyone has any questions about becoming a 1 Million Cups coordinator, or maybe you want to become a community sponsor. Yeah, I think that's about all we have for today. I guess we will see you all next week. Have a great week, everyone.